All right. Well, it'll be just a second and we'll be live here. Okay, we are live, I believe, on Facebook here, and you can tell I am not in my upstairs attic today. I am out in my backyard, enjoying the beautiful weather here in South Dakota. It is, I have no idea, it's probably 70 degrees after snow last week. This is awesome, and I actually get to go golfing this afternoon a little later. So one more round of golf before we put the clubs away probably, but happy to be outside in my backyard. Let me move this so maybe I can get in. You can see me a little better if I'm in some light. There we go. That looks better. Yeah, because everybody wants to see me. So I want to get right into it with my guest today because this is a special one because obviously, you know, Roman is, you know, we'll learn a lot about Roman, but first we got to know, Roman, it's light out and nice out where I'm at, but you know, obviously you're inside, but where are you at and what's it like there?
Okay, so hello everybody. So yeah, my name is Roman and I'm right now in Slovakia in a town called Bratislava, which might be really hard to pronounce for you, but but it's a capital city of Slovakia. Slovakia is right in the middle of Europe. We actually has a point in the middle of Slovakia, what is the heart of Europe. So we are really in the heart of Europe right now.
Awesome, man. And it's, would you tell me it's a 7-hour time difference from South Dakota to where you're at?
Yes, there is a 6 o'clock. It's in the evening, 6 p.m. So 7 hour difference.
All right. So let's, you know, let's start a little bit about yourself, Roman. You know, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name? I've known you for, you know, quite a few years, but, you know, you're one of those guys like, you know, Jordan and Kobe, you know, we just go by Roman because, you know, you're that special. You just need one name. But how do you pronounce your last name?
Not really, but my last name is pronounced Lacho. I'm not sure. It's and like everybody in America called me Lacho, but my really name is Lacho.
Awesome. Awesome. And, you know, you mentioned being in America. Before we get there, you know, where'd you grow up and, you know, what was, you know, your family like growing up?
Okay, so I grew up here in Slovakia in the same city. Right now, I'm living in a different neighborhood, but I born in Bratislava, raised in Bratislava. I grew up in the church, so my family was really involved in a church, Pentecostal church. So we were really involved from my childhood. I started, doing church stuff for, I don't know, when I was 11, 12. And my only dream when I was young was to be a missionary. So this is me growing up, little boy in the middle of Slovakia, and yeah, city. But yeah, that's me.
And, you know, so becoming a missionary as you grew up and it got older and you could decide, you know, hey, I want to go out and do something, you know, outside of Slovakia. You know, how did that come about? And then where did you start and where have you been doing your missionary work?
So as a Slovakia, the reason why I want to become become missionary in Slovakia because I met a lot of missionaries who came here after communist fall in '89, and I met them, and they were saying these amazing stories from all around the world, especially Africa. So I always want to go to Africa, and growing up in Europe generally, Native Americans are really popular. So I grew up in this environment where everybody, when um, we always play on to be Native Americans or cowboys. And, a lot of people always want to be a Native Americans for some reason in Europe, because we have this famous movie by Germans, written and made by Germans. And so Native Americans were very popular. but I never imagined myself to going anywhere close to Native Americans. So when I was around 15, 16, even 17, I was planning to go to Africa. Um, and of course, I was at the high school that time, so I cannot go. And then things change suddenly. So I didn't went to Africa. I went the other way.
And then, where did, when you came to the United States, where did you go and the stops that you made while you were here?
Okay, so first, my first time in so yeah, I need to say this, not not taking offense, but when I was 17, United States, Russia, and Australia was the three least country I want to visit. I want to ever go, for different reasons. Growing up in Europe, that's how it is sometimes, especially in Eastern Europe. But then, God changed my heart and really show me that if I want to make difference, I cannot be just interested in Native American history, but I just need to really go and help. If that's something what they need. So my first visit of United States was actually Florida. I went with the Florida team with the Book of Hope, its organization distributing books all around the world. I went with them to Argentina, but I spent weeks in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and yeah, that was a big experience for for a boy from a small country, coming to big United States, hot United States. It was really hot, I remember. So Florida was the first place I visited as the United States, and then a few years later, I started preparing theologically, getting like kind of a high college in Denmark. And after that, I was already married. I already have one son. And after that, we went to Pine Ridge after Bible school. In 2008, we went to Pine Ridge to visit one of their ministry in Oglala. And that was my first encounter with Native American. So, yeah.
And then from how long did you stay in Pine Ridge, and then did you go right to Lower Brule from Pine Ridge?
So uh the, I really like in Oglala. I really love the team. I really like the people. I was there just 2 weeks just to doing research, what is the place. And the guys in Oglala were really nice to me. I mean, they have a great ministry. They have open gym every day for kids, and that's something what I want to do. I love sports. And but they told me that there is a one place they might need more help than Oglala, because they have in that time they have a big team. And they show me Lower Brule, and compare Oglala and Lower Brule. Lower Brule was like a paradise compared to Oglala. Not not try to hurt anybody from Oglala, but I love it in Oglala in that time. But it was really a God way to show me where I need to be, and through them I end up in Lower Brule. And in 2008, I first time visit Lower Brule just for 2.5 days. And honestly, I'm an honest guy. I I didn't like it in Lower Brule because it was too nice. It was a nice river. It was green. It was I'm not sure what it was, October or November. It was really nice in Lower Brule. I mean, visually. So yeah.
Yeah, and, you just mentioned, the difference between, Pine Ridge and Lower Brule, and obviously the size difference. Pine Ridge, huge reservation, Lower Brule, smaller community. And then it's interesting that you would say it was too nice because a lot of people would say, well, it's still a reservation. It's not very nice there. But in perspective, the differences, wherever we go and how we feel right away. But then obviously you grew to love Lower Brule because you stayed there for a while.
Yes, and maybe the reason why I'm saying that that Lower Brule was nice, because my my mindset was set up to countries like Africa, and I'm not, again, not trying to hurt anybody, but Oglala is, it's a little Africa in the middle of United States. It's Badlands and desert. it's different than Lower Brule when it's much compact. There is a river, and a lot of much more greener, and nicer in a way, in Lower Brule. But I wanna serve God. So first of all, I was asking God, where He want me, because if it's supposed to be my choice, I will go to Pine Ridge in that time. But me and my wife, we ask and we pray, and we really felt that Lord Brule is the place. And it's if if you are a Christian, if you are a mission worker, it's not about where you want to go, because we will all be in Hawaii probably. But we don't choose where we want to go. We choose where God's want us to use and where is the biggest need. So in that time, we felt that it is Lord Brule, and we really fall in love with Lord Brule. And if it's in our choice, we will probably be still there. But it wasn't our choice, and maybe I will talk later about it.
Yeah. Let's go back to Laura Brule in a minute. Let's talk about your family. You mentioned your wife and your firstborn. But there's a lot that's happened since that firstborn, right? So maybe talk about your family a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, I have my wife Barcha. And she's from Bratislava, same city. We met in a youth group in our church. And then we get together when we were right on the border of 17 and 18. She's 3 months older, so she was 18, I was 17. In that time we started dating. And then we after we were dating for 4 years, then we get married. And after marriage, we had a first son. His name Israel. um, and he went with us to Bible school. After we came from Bible school, my wife was pregnant again with Dakota. um, Dakota Cora. She born here in Slovakia. Then we have another son, Malachi. Um, but because he's Bigfoot, we call him Malachi Sitanka, what means Bigfoot in Lakota. And then we moved with him when he was 9 months, and Israel was 5 or 6. We moved to Lower Brule, and then we have two more children born in United States. One is Sinai Manichacha, what means waterfall in Lakota, is her second name. And Levi Skala, and Skala is in Slovak rock. And then yeah, and then last born is actually born back when we came back to Slovakia. His name is Nehemiah. So that's for now, and we are expecting the seventh. It will be boy. We know we are not agree on the name yet, but we know it will be boy.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. And maybe talk about your wife's role in, not only in your family, but, as a missionary, as you're out, does she, what has her role been, and how has she handled, the stresses of moving and living in so far away from her family?
And now I need to be careful because she might be watching. And no, no, just kidding. I think that was it will be a good question for her. But as I can say for her, it was a struggling for her in a way to find a role. As a mother on at the maternity leave, and then being home with the children. It's hard, but actually, everything in Lower Brule and in every community is through children. So actually, the children was a gateway for us to into relationship with people in Lower Brule. So being in the playground was a type of ministry, was a type of presence. We were there, and in my observation, ministry sometimes is overthink. We overthink the ministry. We plan to do great things, but actually, people who need help, they just need people around them. They just need a positive examples of living. And it's not hard. It's not for hard. Is anybody can do it. I mean, and we are not any special couple. We are not any special people, skillful people. My English was really broken, and some people can really it's not perfect right now, but back in the day, when I came to Lower Brule, people were laughing on me because they cannot understand what I'm saying, and people were thinking I'm a really quiet person with no sense for humor or anything, because I cannot say any joke because I know only joking Slovaks. So I look like dumb person a little bit, for some people, maybe in some people in Lower Brule still think that because they never get me know. But yeah, so my wife was really present, and without her, and this might sounds like cliche, like we always do that, saying this as a man in the ministry, but we cannot do, and I cannot do the stuff what I did without her. I was traveling with the team, with the high school team. I was involved in a community, in the church, involved in everything what was happening in Lower Brule, and I wasn't able to do it. And for me to coming back home, to speak with somebody, Slovak language, to have somebody, basically counseling me, all the time, speaking about everything, my struggle, my worries, it was really her role. So it's behind the scene, uh, but without her I cannot do what I did. And definitely we are the team. And if you don't know this, Barcha, you are the team now. you know I just make a point little.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. And, thank her for being, part of that team, because within that team, your time at Lower Brule, let's go back to that and the things that you were able to do. You mentioned just being present, being there for people. Maybe touch on some of the times that you were able to impact somebody's life by just being there, or some of your other roles within the community as they progressed.
Okay, so basically, I'm sorry, you like what I was doing, or
Yeah,
okay. Okay, sorry.
that's all right. That's all right.
uh
Let
yeah,
me
so
let me ask you this before we go to that. Um,
okay.
Over in Slovakia, do you speak much English?
um Actually, recently I do. Actually, I'm involved with the English speaking community church.
Okay.
So yeah, last week we were planning, or 2 weeks ago we were planning to do this talk, but I wasn't able to do it because this Sunday I was preaching in two different churches in the same Sunday because of the online. So I was able to do it. But so yeah, I speak English, but mostly, of course, I speak Slovak. In Slovakia. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. So now let's go back and, yeah, what were some of the things that you were able to do, or you were working on in Lower Brule?
So I remember first time coming. It was 2011 summer, and I didn't know exactly. I came to help the pastor in a church. That time it was Randy Jensen, and I came there, and somebody, I got involved with the Boys and Girls Club through some people. So I was helping with Boys and Girls Club, with you know the director there, Tanya. I think she's still today, she's a director there. And growing relationship, with the kids, starting soccer, practices, because I love soccer, and I want to do something with my own kids, but also involved. I see that elementary kids wasn't really involved outside of basketball period of their season, so there wasn't nothing going for them. So I see that's an opportunity. And it was actually, I still believe that Native Americans are really great in soccer because they love running. They're good in running. They are smaller, they are not tall. They have a good agility, good stability. I think they have a huge potential in the soccer. And so I did some soccer coaching, and we did some soccer games over the time. And then my influence, or my presence, was working, and I was gaining more and more trust. I was involved in some um, some um, some other things, like everything, taking photography at the school, at the community, at the different events. I was blessed that people trust me, and they let me be involved in their community. So I really appreciate, because without their allowed me to do it, in beginning, for them I was just some strange um white guy who came there with the broken English, and some because of my beer, some of them think I'm some type of terrorist coming from foreign country, speaking Russian or whatever language I'm speaking with my children. So I was really strange, and looking back, it must be really weird for many people in Lower Brule to see me, uh, and coming there in their community just like from nowhere, and being there. So I'm really thankful for them that they allowed me to serve them.
Yeah, and you mentioned the trust, and we've had that conversation, sitting in your house in Lower Brule about the importance of that trust, and how did gaining their trust, how did that work? Was it just being present? Was it, conversations? Hey, you can trust me. How did that go about?
There is a secret word for it. It's called time.
Mhm.
You can gain a trust over the night. It's not possible with us humans. We are not trustworthy. And I'm personally also not trustworthy. As a general. That's one of my issue in my life. And I'm working on it, but I can see that when I came there, it wasn't easy for them to trust me, because history of you have misused the trust, for Native American is a big thing. And I came from a small country. We have just 6 million, less than 6 million people in Slovakia. So for me, I came like the big nation, and for me, I was just observing, and I'm glad that I did that. And I didn't know in that time that that's how a missionary should act. But right now, when I'm actually teaching about mission, and try to motivate and mobilize other missionary to go into world, I actually finding out that this is the base to every missionary need to do it. Like when he first come to country, he need to quietly observe and just learn what's the way of the people, and then to join them, not to try to come and change everything from overnight, because it's not possible. Nobody will trust you. So for me, I'm glad that for my personality, for my growing up, where I am from, I think it was a great fit, to coming from Slovakia to Lower Brule. It was a perfect fit because it was arranged by God, what I believe.
Yeah, and some of that, as you're observing, and you're seeing, some of the extremely, it's beautiful there. The people are very friendly, but there's also that side of every community that is, not so nice and negative, and especially on the reservation, where there's, this racism has put them in a place where they aren't able to, flourishes as in some other towns in South Dakota or the country. What was that like when you saw the positive, but then you started seeing the negative, and the people that really needed some help?
Yeah, the thing is that's the biggest difference in Lower Brule to Oglala from my point of view, because Oglala, the struggle was visible, and in Lower Brule it was hidden. It was in the house. It was happening during the night over the parties, and the things what you don't see when you are a stranger, when because they don't allow you to go to their houses and seeing stuff. So yes, it was revealing from in front of me, while I was going. And there is a different phases of mission work, and one of the phases to disappointment, and realizing from these romantic dreams of Native Americans riding on a horse and a prairie, and it's everywhere. It's not means only for coming to Native American land, but if I go to anywhere else, to Mongolia, I will be excited about Mongolia for first. I will be drinking this uh, horse milk, whatever, and I will be happy because it's some exciting things. But then later on, I will get disappointed, or it will be realizing moment, and then you grow into relationship and finding the a strong relationship with people, and that's where you are hooked, and that's where you are adapt into the culture. So so it's a process, but I really fast realized that the things what I see are not not the reason. The things what I see is not because people are bad, or alcohol is some alcohol have some type of more power in the reservation. It's all because of the hopelessness. And when I and you know everything, I mean, from suicide to abuse to alcohol, you know, all these, and drugs, all these are products of something bigger. And you know, we see these because we see these things because it's a surface, you know, it's floating, so we see them, but actually what is under the water is the real hopelessness of people, of the situation, and maybe sometimes unforgiveness, and maybe sometimes just a pure hopelessness because of the situation, the lifestyle, and the circle, you know, what they are hooked up on. So the people are great, you know, so these things are surface. So soon as I find out that there is the problem in a hopelessness, you know, that's where my prayer was. That's where I try to bring a hope, you know. And me and my wife, we always said we didn't come to change Native Americans. We didn't come to change them from Native Americans to some, you know, white Christians. You know, that's not the point of mission Christian work. You know, the point is to bring a hope, what only God can give. And this is what we try. I cannot I cannot say that I'm succeed. You know, it can be seen maybe over the time, or somebody else can say. But this was our goal, not to really fight against alcohol, drugs. Yes, of course, but actually there is something under that what is much more powerful, and that is the hopelessness. And there is that things that, you know, my parents didn't went to college, my grandparents didn't went to college, I will not get to the college. And there is this, you know, circle of things, and prejudice, you know, outside of the reservation, and opposite prejudice in the reservation, you know. It's a circle what is, a lot of people are hooked in that engine, you can say, you know. And it's hard to get away and see it from a side. So my goal was to bringing people out of that circle, and showing them that it is possible, you know, because I'm not any special, and I'm able to live with the hope, and with the new beginnings. And you know, so I don't know if I answered that question, but
Great answer. Now, obviously, you had a lot of success there. You just said it's not for you to say. I know you had a lot of success there. I seen it, and I seen it in the way people talked to you and respected you when you walked into a room. But there had to be times where, maybe that people confronted you and said, why are you here? Because you said, like you said, you're not Native American. Why are you here in our business? And I'll bet that was difficult times too.
yes, definitely, and especially for me, it was really interesting because before I went to United States, I was really interested in a culture and a history of Native American, and especially of Lakota people and Sioux Nation. And but later on, when I came to reservation, I actually realized that, it's kind of it was inside switch. I start to be interested in my own background, in my own tribe, I'm coming from. And it was really interesting that one of the, and it's again, I don't deserve to say that, I didn't, it happened to me basically, that I wasn't really tried to be like a Native American. I didn't, you know I in a time I have a long hair, and but it wasn't because I want to become a Native American. I didn't try to play on them, because you cannot play on somebody who you are not. You are who you are, and you cannot change that. So I think all these things that we spoke Slovaks, of course. Also, I think it helps that we were Slovaks and not Americans. uh, it really helped to actually Native Americans to receive us, because for some reason in they see danger, not for some reason, but historical reasons, they see danger in a white American person, but they didn't see that danger in us as a Slovakia, or we didn't see that. Right away we said we are from Slovakia. We have like, they let us get closer to them. That was right there the moment. So God using American missionary here, working with gypsies, because gypsies will never open to me the way how they open to American missionaries. And he sent us to in the middle of United States into small reservation to get closer to Native Americans, what maybe other Americans will have, will never it will never happen to them. So it's a God orchestra.
Yeah. When so you got there in 2011, and now you're back in Slovakia. Can you kind of talk about, you know, having to leave the reservation to go back home, and what that situation was like?
So it was really hard, and for us as a family, and it's for me to realize, because last time we were in the States was 2018, and we went there, and everything was look like that we will get that we will I will start actually not volunteering and not coming as a mission worker, but I will start at the school as a working place, and I will be developing from that point my ministry and also my work among in the reservation. So everything looks that is set up, and actually the school hired the tribe hired a lawyer to get my visa and everything. So everything looks so smooth, and then they told us to go back to Slovakia in 2-3 weeks. You will come back. So we left everything there in Lower Brule. We packed a little bit of stuff, and we storage in the downstairs of our house, and we left with few bags, clothes for 2 or maybe month. And 3 months later, we had a word from a lawyer that we didn't get a visa. So it was a shock. It was really a shock, and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to say. Our supporters here in Slovakia, we don't know what to say to my church. We didn't know what to say to people in Lower Brule. They were waiting for us. We stuck, and I didn't know what to do. And I asked God, like, God, what are you doing? Like, everything in the Lord Brule went really well. I think my influence was growing. The ministry was growing. The work and the partnership and relationships that were growing. What is the issue? And then through one of my friend, I really have this question and encounter with God. When I believe God asked me, "Hey, Roman, uh, are you willing to sacrifice your vision and your dream so others can go?" And this was a really hard question. My friend asked me that, but I know it the question from God, and I really have tears in my eyes because I didn't want to say yes. And um, and it took me a few months literally to say, God, that yes, do whatever you want with me. And you know I was praying when I was young, God, send me wherever. Like, I will go wherever you want me to go. But in that word, wherever, there was no Slovakia. Slovakia was against the last country I want to visit. I want to go live. I want to, I really want to stay longer in Lower Brule, and we went through last 2 years. We went through a lot of hardship, with me and my wife, a lot of crying, missing our home in Lower Brule, missing the family, missing the friendship, the ministry. But over the time, we see that it was a perfect time. It was something what God wanted to do it. And I wasn't able to say that in 2011, in June or July, but I'm able to say today that it was a right choice from God. And I don't know how long we will be in Slovakia, but I don't want to saying big words, because before I was thinking that in Lower Brule I will be for 10, 20 years, maybe my lifetime. And now, my life is in the hand of God. That's our mindset with my wife and my kids. And we know that wherever he send us, we will go. We are developing a mission agency here in Slovakia, mobilizing Slovak church and Slovak Christians to be involved in a mission, helping those who went because of our experience. And it's interesting, and I don't believe in coincidence. So I believe that there was a God work. Same time as I came, there was a two other guys came with the same type of experience. None of them want to come to Slovakia. One was long time in Asia, over 12 years in Asia, and suddenly he was deported because of the visa issue. and the other one, came from United States, having job there as a pastor, coming a pastor, really small church here in Slovakia. And these two guys, we really linked up. We knew each other from before, and we really start developing the mission agency. And we see that the ground here in Slovakia is ready, because for a long time I was praying for more Slovaks to go to mission, but our mindset were, hey, we want to receive missionaries, yeah, we love missionaries coming here, but we didn't have the attitude that we want to send. And now that's changing, not because of me, not because of them. It's because of it's the right timing to be here. So it's hurt that I'm not in Lord Brule, but when you are at the right time, at the right time, at the right place, you can't complain, and
Yeah,
yeah.
and you mentioned the tough time it was for you and your wife. I can imagine for your kids, because they, you know, your older kids, that was their home. They were growing up, they had friends, had to be very difficult on them as well.
Yes, definitely for the oldest three kids it was, and my third one, Malachi, he was 9 months when we went there, 10 months when we went there, and for him that was home. And it was really hard for him, to get along. And we saw some things in his life, he was going through a lot of things, in his mind. And I think for all my kids, till today they still speak English at home when they play sometimes. It was hard for them to go to Slovak schools, because all they know was a res school in Lower Brule, and they love it. They love the people, they love the classmates, they love the culture, and they come back to Slovakia. They have different accent. Everybody was laughing on them because they have this American accent in their Slovak, and it was really hard for them. And but that's the toll you need to pay.
And you mentioned the trust earlier, and the time that it takes to get that trust. And I'll share, walking around Lower Brule with you, when we walked into the Boys and Girls Club, when we walked into the law enforcement center, or whatever that place was. I think it was a law enforcement center. We walked into the rec center. We walked into the tribal headquarters. Everybody knew Roman. I mean, it wasn't like you were just in your church, you were embedded in that community. You were part of that community. And I can't imagine, all the impact that you had. And you said, you don't want to toot your own horn, so to speak, but what an incredible life that you lived for that time, and you're living now. What do you see yourself doing coming up in your life?
Yeah, it's really as I was mentioning, it's really in the God hands. I'm praying that that there will be time when I will be released at the mission field again. That I will not stay, because it's actually much hard. It was much harder for us to be back in your home country and to live as a missionary here when everybody think it's your home, and not expecting anything. That the language, everything. You are born here in this city, so what's wrong with you? But literally, we everything we have, and we were collecting as a family. Over the years, you're collecting stuff. Like stupid fun, like plates and cups and forks and stuff like this. We didn't have that here. We have everything in Lord Brule, and I went there back in November in 2008 and 18, and I sell some stuff because we didn't know when we will come back. So it was really hard for us, and we don't know where we'll be. In really, we know right now for at least few years we'll be here mobilizing Slovaks. I really, I was actually just few weeks ago I was planning to make a trip to Lower Brule because they're really cheap tickets right now. But I it's get too busy and but I want to keep my keep close contact with Lower Brule because I have a lot of family there. I have a lot of friends there. I cannot forget that time, because not only maybe I became part of their community, but they became part of me. Um, so I left piece of my big chunk of my heart there, and it always will be my home, to the little village next to the Missouri River, and I will I will fight for it, and so what will be next? I have no idea. I left my um, you know I it's really hard to say, because not that I don't want to say. It's just because I want to live the life where it's an adventure with God. So I'm not actually the Lord of my life, and we say that as a Christians, God is my Lord, but then we do whatever we want. But uh, I try to not wishing what I will do. Of course, I pray that I will go to mission field. I hope that I will be involved with the Native Americans. I hope I can also motivate them also to go to mission, maybe into the world, maybe to some places, to Africa with me as a short-term mission trips, and it was my dream from beginning to bring them to Slovakia as the students of Lower Brule School. And we actually have free encounters to do it. We were fundraising, we were doing stuff to bring them here in Slovakia, because they will be really a shine team here, because people love Native Americans, as I was mentioning. So I don't know what will be, but it definitely will be somehow hooked with Lord Brule. But also I know God is breaking my heart for some other nations around the world, because I believe that Lakota people and Lower Brule people has a lot of potential, and I think that for me to working there and seeing their potential, it will be waste of my life and waste of their life if I'm just there for them to have a good time. God has a bigger purpose. God is loving all nations, and He want to take Lakota people to introduce some other nation who have no Bibles, no, never heard the gospel, and so maybe somehow we will be all together connected to ministering some other tribe and other nation or other ethnic group. So yeah.
Yeah, and a little while ago you mentioned, basically it's hard to quantify success in being a missionary, and I struggle with that with higher power sports, because I'm always fundraising and people want to. Well, what are you doing? How you know when you fill out a grant form, how are you gonna how are you gonna measure success? Well, I mean, very difficult. But the good thing, personally, and for you, I'm sure, is that it's daily, it's hourly. It's that one meeting that you have a conversation with somebody, that time that you mentioned, spending with somebody. That's the success. It's not like, oh, we won this game, or we put this much in the food bank, or whatever it is. It's very difficult to quantify, don't you think?
Yes, definitely the whole, especially when you're working in either social work or you're working for kingdom of God, and it's it's really hard to count the fruits. Our work should be measured by our fruits, but sometimes people in the history of mission and all around the world never saw their fruits, but they did so much. Maybe they influenced one person, and they did enough because that person changed the whole country. And that's the story and testimonies of history. And I hope that one day, some people can say that about me, that maybe I influenced one person, maybe I was enough to help one person, and that's enough, because that person can change the world. And it's starting with our own kids, it's starting with the people who surround us, our friends, and then the ministry. But I was also, I will be lying if I saying that I never see the fruits. I was fortunate to see some of the fruits, and especially from when people visit me when I was leaving, and they knew I'm moving out. They never know when I will come back, and there was some people who came to me and say really nice words. And like that one time I was standing in the parking lot and waiting for one of the teacher to bring me USB from one of the game, and I supposed to give him a pictures from a game, and there is this car stop by, and it I never I don't knew the guy. He was from Lower Brule. He was a little bit drunk. He's got a in vodka in the middle. He got two pit bulls in the back, hip hop music going out, and I in my mind I was like, "Phew, the last day and I will go in a fight or what, because he called me to his car and I walked to his car, and he, with the tears, he was drunk, but with the tears in his eyes, he told me, Roman, thank you what you were doing here, because my kids went to your church, my kids went to your practices, my kids went to the overnight events you did with other people, because it wasn't only me doing everything, it was a huge team and a lot of people involved, and so these type of things, when people say thank you and you don't even know them, then you know that God allowed you to see some of the fruit. So I'm not want to say that I never see the fruits, and I heard a lot of thanks from a guy from a guys in Lord Brule, and a lot of love I experienced when I went there. And actually that was one of the biggest issue when I go back to Slovakia, because here in a big city I was nobody. In Lord Brule, everybody greet me, everybody say hello to me. It was a really nice country life. We were waving on each other on the car. You were greeting everybody. In the Lower Brule roads. Here in Slovakia, I tried to do it a few times, but people flipped me out, and didn't work out. So, so I really miss that life. I really miss that life, to be known, to be influential. But sometimes the influence is changing the size, but there is still influence, and as I was saying, it doesn't matter if you're influencing 1,000 or you're influencing one. It's still your responsibility to be where God wants you to be, or where he put you. So
Yeah. And a couple things before we wrap up here. We're running, we talked earlier again, maybe go half hour, and we're hitting at 45 minutes here. But I want to ask you about your headband. It says man of God. And, what does that mean to you? And, what does, is that something that is that in your heart? Is it just something that, you read and you just go on? But, what does it really mean to you to be a man of God?
uh yeah, that for me it really showed through David, in Bible. He was man by God heart. He was unperfect. uh, I can relate with him. He was really a human person with a lot of mistakes, with a lot of bad decisions, but he was honest, and he always knew that the one who deserve is everything is God. So whenever he did mistake, everybody doing mistake, everybody will do mistake, and I will make 1,000 mistakes in front of me in tomorrow and days after. But it really depends if I'm willing to come to God and say, hey, I made mistake. I did it wrong. I did somebody wrong. I make the bad decision. And so for me, it's really honestly and recognizing that God is the ultimate power, and God is the one who we really need to put all our hopes. And so being a man of God, it doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else, or it doesn't mean that I'm sinless. I never do anything wrong. Opposite. It means that I'm a creation of God. I'm a human. I'm a person who will make mistake, but under the grace of God, I can call myself a son. And that's something what really God spoke to me after I came back to Slovakia, because all my identity, going and growing up, was to being a missionary. I want to be missionary. I want to do mission for God. And when I was doing a mission for God, I was a missionary. It was like I succeed. I was 30 years old, and I did everything I want to do in my life. I was a missionary in the Lord Brule. And when I came back into Slovakia, everything fall down, and all my dream, whole identity fell apart. And I was asking God, so God, what I should do. And he really clearly talk to me that I'm not a missionary, I'm not a worker, I'm not a slave for him, I'm his son. And I think this is a message for me that we are not what we're doing for God. We are his son, doesn't really matter what we're doing for him. It's coming out of it because we live with him that we want to do something with him, as a partnership with him to in this world. But it's not about being that my identity is to being mission. It's more that I'm a son of God, creation of God, so that's why I'm a man of God.
That's awesome. That is awesome. We better wrap up here, Roman, real quick before I'll turn it over to you for any last words or anything, thoughts that you might have. But for everybody out there, obviously, day after election, still, a lot of back and forth and all that. Let's just pray that all the votes get counted, and whether they're red or blue states, that we can move on and, get our country going in a godly direction, so to speak, in the way we treat each other. So obviously a lot going on in our United States, Roman, and watching from afar, I'm sure you are still, obviously you're invested in it too, with everything you got going on, but just a, a tough time in our country right now. So thinking about everybody out there, um, get out and enjoy the weather. If you're in South Dakota, if you want to get a hold of Roman, how can they get a hold of you? Can Facebook, any other ways possibly?
Yes, there is a Facebook, or there is a website. They can find it on my Facebook, where is the pictures of my family and what we did in Lord Brule, and there is a newsletter. We also publish it in English. So what we're doing right now in Slovakia, or they can look back what we were doing last 2 years. So it's basically the HAWRAN.org. It's like my middle name. What is not really my middle name, it's my nickname. And yeah, you can hook me up there on Facebook too, with contact information or anything. But
Awesome. Uh, Roman, thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done for countless people. You mentioned, if you can just touch that one life and have an impact, and that person can change the world. Well, I know for a fact that you've touched many lives here in South Dakota, including mine. I always enjoy speaking with you, even though sometimes I can't understand. No, it's it's always just fun to talk to you. You're a great human being, and you rest assured that God is proud of you, and what you're doing with your life. Good luck with the 6 kids, soon to be 7. Hopefully everything goes well with that, and blessings to your wife as well.
thank you very much.
All
Thank
right,
you very much.
we will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.